We've all heard of rock bottom, but what about rock middle?
Welcome to Fox Talks Business Podcast with your host, Tanya Fox. Tanya has been an entrepreneur for over 20 years, owning retail, service, and franchise. She holds no punches and is never afraid to talk about the nitty-gritty. Together, you'll explore the good, the bad, and the motivational of business life, turning obstacles into opportunities and failures into successes. So grab your favorite drink and let's have some fun. Here's your host, speaker, crafter, and collaborator, Tanya Fox.
Sallie Holder is an acclaimed best-selling author of Hitting Rock Middle, the roadmap from empty success to true fulfillment. She's also a fellow podcast host and founder of The Brim. She's a sought-after coach, speaker, trainer, and guide to her clients breaking out of their silent scream in success and into true fulfillment. As a nationally recognized speaker and business coach, Sallie has spent more than 15 years helping businesses, entrepreneurs, and employees identify what's getting in their way and then breaking down those barriers to success. Sallie earned a degree in human and organizational development from Vanderbilt University and followed that by earning her law degree. While spending more than 10 years practicing labor and employment law, advising small companies as well as giants like FedEx and Michelin, she grew passionate about the growth of businesses. Moving beyond her law practice, she became an entrepreneur, starting her own business in coaching. And it was here that she discovered her true passion. And that was to help others make bold choices that lead to lasting success and lasting happiness. So thank you so much for coming on the show today, Sallie. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to connect.
So tell everybody a little bit about your background, how, like, sort of where you started to getting to where you are right now.
Sure. So I started this life in a small town, Greenville, South Carolina, and really always with kind of that high achiever personality. I was, going to follow a model of success that was presented to me. And I was going to do that really well. So I went to undergraduate school, and then immediately went to law school and thought, all I have to do is become a lawyer, and then all forms of success will be bestowed upon me and I will be fulfilled and so happy. And as you can tell from the level of sarcasm in my voice, that did not exactly happen. But I practiced law with the second largest labor and employment law firm in the United States and traveled and had a really great experience. But I just was never fulfilled. I never loved what I was doing. And for years, I really let go of my attachment to fulfillment, thinking, okay, that only comes later on in your career. Work is supposed to just kind of suck. And it's supposed to be hard. And so, just kind of get over yourself and keep going. And then, so that's what I did. I kept going and going and going, and none of it was coming, right? None of the feelings of joy and contentment and fulfillment, the things I really wanted, were coming. And so I finally got up enough courage to make a move. Of course, that turned out to be a very simple lateral move to running a law firm. And then I served as the chief operating officer for 6 different companies and 6 different industries, just stuck in what I now refer to as the loop, going from thing to thing, thinking it was always the job that needed to be fixed and not me. And then I finally had the courage and the gumption to become an entrepreneur myself. And that is where I am today, is serving as a business coach to female entrepreneurs, very focused on helping them increase their revenue.
And I love the book that you wrote. I'm not all the way through it, but I'm almost through it, because I think it is such a key thing that has been missing for a lot of people. Because we all hear about people, we hear people talk on stage all the time of, they had this big event happen in their life, they hit rock bottom, and then they lifted themselves up, and the big story. So tell us a little bit about your book and the meaning behind it, because I think a lot of people are really going to resonate with it.
Well, thank you. the book is called Hitting Rock Middle. And I came up with that particular title because I knew in that kind of long stretch that I was just describing, where I was staying stuck and staying in this quote unquote successful career, that something was wrong and that something was off, because I kept showing the world that I was perfect, right? All of the external boxes had been checked. Everything was good. But I had this deep, dark secret that things on the inside didn't feel so great. And I didn't share that with a lot of people, because I was really shameful about it. You know, I did what most women do, which is I turned on myself and I thought, well, there must be something wrong with me. It can't be wrong with kind of the model that we're sold about how to achieve success. If everyone else is doing it, it must just be me. There's something wrong with me. I just got to fix me and stay in what I'm doing. And I've really come to learn that there is this middle place in our lives and our careers where we may have chosen something at a young age that we, you know, choose as a career, like I chose the practice of law, and it may not be exactly who we are, right? Who we become as the years go on and as we evolve as individuals. And there is not much of a permission slip to create change from that middle place, right? Once you're especially successful in any way, shape, or form externally, a lot of people say to you, it doesn't matter how you feel on the inside, you just stay there. And I want to be the counter to that. I want to be the voice that says that is completely wrong, that you don't have to stay there. You can create change from a place of success anytime you want and leave all that behind to create what truly fulfills you. And so the book is intended to really be a roadmap to give people the process to create that type of change that I wanted and ultimately did create with my career too.
And I find too that there's a lot of guilt that goes with that, especially if you're at a point where other people are looking at you going, but you have everything. You know, you have a good job, you have a good career, you're paid well, you get to travel, you know, they're ticking off all of these things. And then there's that self-doubt that you go, why am I not happy? I do have all of these things that are supposed to make me happy. So what are some of the tips to not only recognizing that, but overcoming that?
Yeah. So I'm so glad you brought that up, because there is a lot of guilt around that. And I felt that guilt as well. How dare I not appreciate this? How dare I not just get over myself and just, you know, buck up and do it? And I'm here to say that that isn't the right approach. That disconnect that you feel is your authentic self. It's the real version of you saying, hey, there's something off. There's a little bit of pain here. We need to pay attention to it. And I wanted to create the language around that so that instead of shaming ourselves and finding guilt in that scenario, we would have vocabulary to be able to use. We would have terminology to be able to shorthand say, what is going on the inside doesn't match what is showing up on the outside. And I think that the first thing we have to do is value our internal thoughts and feelings as much as we do the external. Because what I have found is that the internal disconnect that you feel, that pain will grow, right? It tends to grow, and the more you try to numb it or not pay attention to it or zone out from it or get away from it, it's still going to be there. It will follow you and it will continue to grow until you listen to it and address it. And for some people that means, you know, changing careers entirely. Some people that means, you know, creating a new business, creating a new revenue stream, creating something exciting again. For every person, it's going to be something completely different. But in the book, I go through a strategy that I call Be Bolder. And it really is kind of that general framework to kind of be able to come back to and reference over and over again to get yourself going and, you know, get out of that place where you just feel stuck.
And I think that's a complaint that a lot of people feel from other people of just, you know, I can't do something. It's scary to jump into a new career or a new, like it always is. I don't think anybody who's done it even if you have multiple businesses, it's always a frightful thing. So for you taking that plunge, what was that like for your a family? Because that's usually the biggest catalyst of what stops people, right? Is I can't tell you how many times I've come home and had weird ideas and my husband's like, oh, here we go again. Right. So how was that for you in, during this whole process?
Well, luckily, self can't see self. So I couldn't see really how uncomfortable and painful and miserable I kind of was, but my husband could see it.
Right.
And so luckily he was very supportive. He continuously had said to me, if there's something else that you want to do, then go for it, go do it. And I had stopped myself saying, yeah, but what? But what? And what I'm constantly telling people is that, instead, stop imagining how you're going to create something entirely different. That's not going to, oftentimes I find, and I was just on a bunch of coaching calls this morning with female entrepreneurs, that, then we go up from there. Instead of reverse engineering our goals, instead of starting with the who we want to become and the life we want to have, and saying, okay, well, what contributes to that life? And so I let the how stop me for a very long time. And luckily I had him to say, it doesn't matter how you do it, just do anything different. And so I think one of the biggest things that helped me was realizing that if I put a lot more value on my internal self and the type of life that I wanted to create, all I needed to do was decide on that, right? Decide on who I wanted to become at the end of this wild and crazy life. I love that Mary Oliver quote. And, we only have one wild and precious life. How are you going to live it? And so I kind of began thinking through that and said, well, this is not who I want to become. I don't want to stay here because I don't want to become these people. I want to become something entirely different. And so instead of me trying to nitpick and say, oh, what would I do? I would write a blog. I don't know. I don't have anything that I want to do. Well, instead of trying to dive into those details, let me just talk about the bigger picture. And then I can pull myself down and be able to, reverse engineer it all the way down to what I would do on a daily basis to get there.
I love what you said about self doesn't see self. And I think that really struck with me when you said that. So, with that being said, what are some of the signs that people can look at within themselves to know they're now stuck in rock middle?
Yeah. So I always say, if you feel like the person that you show the world is dramatically different than the person that you know yourself to be on the inside, right? I often felt like I would have to play a role in my own life or put on a mask. A lot of people will say that. I've got to, gear up for going to work because I've got to be a different version of myself than I really authentically am. Oftentimes then those are all signs that there is a significant disconnect between who you really are and the mask that you're putting on to show the world externally. And when there is that significant divide, then it tends to be kind of painful and frustrating because you don't get to just show up as yourself. So I think that if you're feeling the need to do that each and every day, that's generally an indication that you might be in rock middle, that there might be, an opportunity for you to create something entirely different. Another good indicator very often is that you see what I refer to as resonance in maybe Instagram or Facebook or, TV or whatever. Some other people might call it jealousy, but I like resonance. So if that resonates with you, if you see a life that someone else is leading, that someone else is, enjoying, and you're saying to yourself, oh, they're so lucky, they get to have that. They get to be that. Then that is your authentic self, that version of you that's saying, I might want that. There is a deep part of me that might need that to feel fulfilled too. So instead of quieting that voice, I want people to listen to it more, and a great way to be able to listen to it is just through meditation. Some people can listen to it through journaling. Some people can listen to it by getting a business coach so that they have a mirror put up to them to be able to talk through some of these different things. But, those are two really good ways to be able to say, yeah, you might have something totally different you can create outside of this rock middle place.
So tell us a little bit more about the coaching that you do, because I think coaches play an important role, and I think everybody needs a coach of some sort, because it's so hard to do this, any of this work, whatever anybody's doing, by themselves. So tell us a little bit more about your program and what it all entails.
Yeah, I'm so glad you believe that too. I always am very honest with people to say the old me, the version of me that was practicing law, staying stuck and miserable, probably wouldn't even agree with myself today and with you, because I was so stuck and thinking, that there was no path out of that stuckness to create change. And luckily, thank God, I ended up finding a business coach that was able to help guide me through that process, and challenge some of my thoughts. So right now, I coach female entrepreneurs in a community that I've created called the BRIM, which is the Beyond Rock Middle movement. So I really wanted to create a movement of women all coming together and collectively, pulling together their energies. It also has been proven that when women work together in a community type style or coaching environment, that they move their businesses forward 2.5 times faster. So I wanted to create this community where they're sharing, successes and failures and all of it with one another. And then within that community, I have 3 separate tracks to serve the entrepreneurs based on where they are. Obviously, the founders, those that need to create an idea and aren't really sure how to found something. Where would you even get started? So I walk them through that process, the people who are in that track. And then the second is the builders, those that really build out their revenue streams and really build a more robust version of what they have. And then finally, the accelerators, those that are generally have $1 million plus business and are looking to double and triple that revenue. So I do focus each month on a different topic. We meet every week via Zoom and in your various tracks. And that gives you small group access to me to get some one-on-one coaching. And then we have Facebook groups where we create a great sense of community. And then we do just really fun things to bring people together, especially, in these times of uncertainty. I call them Brim breaks, and we do happy hours on Zoom together. We've done Pilates classes together. So people kind of sharing their time and talents with everybody else in the community. And it has just been such a joy as we are in isolation from Corona. So,
yeah. And I think it's true. I think community is a really key thing, because I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there who, maybe don't have a lot of other entrepreneurs in their family, or you just need somebody who gets it, somebody who understands, and somebody who's maybe not invested in it to be able to bounce ideas off of, however crazy they might be. And then that community too, that will also sort of bring you back down,
yes.
which sometimes we need to, right?
Right. Completely agree with both of those. It's nice to have those. Everybody has an accountability partner as well. So they, have someone that they can just call immediately and say, let me bounce that crazy idea off of you. But, and then we're coming back and all sharing our action steps each week. And so there's great accountability to moving your business forward. And I find that while books and other, maybe a video you would watch online are fantastic, and they cultivate awareness. And so, yes, definitely still go get my book, because it'll cultivate maybe a new level of awareness in you. But we all need accountability to take action. And that is what the BRIM is really intended to help you do, is to stay consistent in the bigger, bolder action steps that are super difficult, like you said, to take on your own, because creating change is just biologically against our hard wiring. Like, we are wired not to change as individuals. And so when you're wanting to do that, it's really tough. And so you need other people who are changing too, who are challenging themselves too, to say, oh my gosh, I experienced that last week. I get it. I hear you. I know what you're going through. You're going to get through this just like I did. Or, and then the reverse will happen the following week. The same person will turn around and say, now I need your help.
Yeah. And so what do you find are the key things that people should be looking for when they're looking for an accountability partner? Because we're hearing that a lot lately, that people are talking about that, but nobody's really describing what it is. So I'm hearing it from people going, I don't even know what that is. How do I be one? And how do I find one that's going to work for me? So what are some key things that people should look for in that?
What a great question. So for me, I am always saying that the accountability partner is someone that you are, this is going to sound a little bit funny, but someone that you are a little scared of, right? That you are scared to let down, right? And so I do not recommend that it is your best friend. I do not recommend it is someone that you know extremely well. I like it when you're set up in an arrangement where you don't know them all that well, and it is an opportunity for you to say, well, gosh, I am a little nervous of what they might think if I don't show up, or if I don't have my homework done, and they aren't going to love me anyway, which is why it doesn't work as well when you're doing it with friends, and why so often those relationships end up kind of falling apart so quickly, where you say, well, I'm going to hold you to this diet, you're going to hold me to that one. And then they're like, oh, but you'll love me anyway if I just ate a cheesecake last night. And the same goes in your business, that, it's great to be able to work with other people. And, like you said a minute ago as well, like, they aren't, emotionally invested in the success of your business. So they're going to follow through on whatever it is that you say. So I always have the accountability partners, I'm setting, obviously in the brim, I'm setting the action steps. I'm telling them, what the action steps are to be able to take. But then as accountability partners, they are serving as the check-in each day, each week, to say, what's your progress? Report back to me. So some people are doing that via Voxer, which is a great app that I love to be able to communicate, or some, and they're all choosing their own, but some are doing it via text, some are doing it, via email at the end of the day. But it's all about being able to update the other individual on the actions that you took that further your goal. Otherwise, I find, especially as entrepreneurs, we can get sucked in to just quote unquote working. And I know that might sound crazy, but working is simple for an entrepreneur to do, right? I mean, there are a million things I'm certain that you can think of right now that you could just do for your business, but they might not be the right things, right? To work on your business, to move your revenue forward, to make sure that you get to the next level. And that's what this accountability partner is helping you do, is saying at the outset, you've already decided what the next level is. You've already decided what the 3 steps are. What was your progress on those? And so that's what we're consistently having people check in about. And then on the Zoom calls each month, and each week, come back and report, hey, we worked together, we both moved our businesses forward, here's where we got. But I don't think that they would get there week after week if they didn't know that the other person wasn't checking in on them consistently.
And I think that is so true, because you do have to have a little bit of that fear factor to make you go, I really got to get this done. This person's going to be upset with me. So I love that tip. I think it's a good one. And, I think that sometimes what entrepreneurs, like you said, they get stuck in the day-to-day just actions of their business. And I can't remember, I heard this just the other day that someone said, a brilliant idea that you have left too long just becomes a dream, and a dream left too long just becomes a fantasy if you do nothing with it. And I thought, I really like that, because it's true. Like, we have these big grandiose ideas, and then, we just sit by and just keep going, that'll be nice someday.
Yeah. And I typically am saying to people, there is a giant difference between productivity and profitability. So you want to focus on profitability and not productivity. And we fall into the trap of just trying to be productive. instead of trying to be profitable. And right, instead of actually asking ourselves, am I doing that just to check a box, to just check something off my list? Or am I doing it because it's going to drive the profits and revenue of my business? And, very often I have found so far, so many of the women in this group are checking boxes. And that's one thing that we're really trying to restructure is, getting, and I'm not saying that everything has to be, right? We don't have to swing the pendulum to 10, that everything has to be, about generating revenue. But we want to know that it has some place, right, in the process of generating revenue, that if this thing doesn't, that it actually leads to the next step that does, or the following step that does. Otherwise, why are we taking the action? And I think more people need to ask themselves that question.
And I think it's true. I think everybody who's listening can relate to the fact that we've all put stuff on a to-do list simply because we knew we could check it off right away and have that, small euphoric sense of accomplishing something. Like,
yes. And it really is just a form of procrastination.
Right. Yeah. And I remember somebody once saying to me that, write a list of everything that you could think of to, that you need, that you could do today. And I mean, it was like, I could go pages of, thinking of stuff, and they're like, okay, cross everything that doesn't matter off. And at the end, like there was 3 things that really would make a difference in my day. And so they're like, great, that's your number. And so I've stuck with that every day I only pick 3 things. I have to accomplish 3 things. And I feel a lot better about it because, I can choose. I mean, yesterday, one of the things was clean my oven. Like because that was monumental to me yesterday, right?
Never done it. No.
But I was like, it like that needs to happen. But I find I really focus on, like you said, on those things of, I really have to sit down and go, I only have 3 things that I'm allowed to put on this list. So I need to make it worth it. Mm-hmm. And then the rest of the day, I'm like, hey, look, I finished my list. I'm good. Because it can be daunting. Those lists can be daunting.
They can be so daunting. And then, they suck up all the extra goodness, right? All of the energy that you would otherwise be putting towards, a hobby or a new skill or, heaven forbid, rest, right? And we've got to get back. And maybe the coronavirus is helping us all reset this so that we can get back to the land of, being able to realize, we all had 24 hours in the day. We all have the same 24. And how you use them is important. And you've got to use some of it to drive your creativity. If you're going to remain innovative, you've got to use some of it for self-care. If you're ever going to actually stay in the game as an entrepreneur, you've got to. Those who have been in business longer than a couple of years know that. And so I saw a fantastic little, it was Deepak Chopra recently put out a little image about how, most people think productivity drives, our businesses, but really, he said, what drives it is the combination of all of these things, right? Self-care, sleep, time and energy and space to be creative, and so he said, what actually drives productivity and profitability is like this tiny little portion of the pie. And the larger portion is really taking care of you, and it feeds the rest of it. And I just loved that because I've always, since I've been doing this work, I've come to know that is very true, that I gain nothing by burning myself out. But it's beautiful to see it represented in a visual format like that.
And I think it's true. Like, I think people are starting to recognize that self-care is so much more important. Like, I know even yesterday I was standing outside going, I don't do this enough. Like, I don't take the opportunity that I have the ability just to walk outside of my house and just sit and listen to birds and fresh air and, all of that other stuff. And it really made me, which I probably wouldn't have realized that until summer, maybe when I went camping. I usually notice it then. But it's just taking that time to do that self-care, because I remember once actually doing the math, because my background is accounting, but actually doing the math of how much it cost me the time that I got sick because I burnt myself out. And I was shocked at how much it cost me. So I was like, if I take an hour once a week to even like pamper myself with something or get a pedicure costs me way less than when I was, out of commission for 2.5 weeks because I had no choice.
Oh, yes. I couldn't agree more. It goes back to that kind of pain meter. Like if we don't listen to it, it will get our attention. It will force us. And I think, probably every one of your listeners who's an entrepreneur has been forced at some point to take rest, right? Because they're sick or whatever. And they're saying to themselves, oh my gosh, I can't believe I let it get this far. And it's so true. If we built a tiny bit of that attention to ourselves in the midst of our normal schedules, we could, completely avoid all of that bigger detrimental like explosion that we ultimately end up experiencing.
And do you find taking that step away also helps to visualize the business differently because we get, you kind of get stuck in seeing it?
I totally agree. It's interesting you say that. We on the call today, I had 10 women in one of the calls, and one woman, we were talking through the creation of a new online revenue stream for her. And she said, another woman chimes in and offers feedback, and we're all discussing this. And then we shift to that same woman who was just touting how wonderful it would be for, her newfound friend to create this other new revenue stream. And then when it became her turn, the idea sounded terrible and that she couldn't accomplish it and she couldn't do it. And so it was quite hysterical to me and she immediately then noticed it. And she was like, it's so funny how it can be okay for someone else and how we can give permission to other people, but we have such trouble giving it to ourselves. And I said, this is why we do it this way, because you can't see it until all of a sudden you feel yourself saying the exact opposite, right? Being so hypocritical and saying, oh my gosh, I just gave you the permission slip that I'm not willing to grant myself all of a sudden. This is mind blowing. And so it was so funny to see all of that carry out literally just about an hour ago.
That's amazing. So what is one of the biggest takeaways that you got from going through this whole experience?
I think one of the biggest takeaways is something that my business coach said to me a long time ago, and I will never forget, which is, right now there is someone out there making millions of dollars doing the thing that you want to do with a lot less passion and a lot less experience than you have. And I have found that to be the case over and over and over again, that we stand in our own way of our own potential, our own success. And if we can just, I don't know why, but throughout the years, that's something that's always given me a bit of comfort and a reminder that's just a quick shorthand ability to shift back into action and say, no, it is unreasonable that I wouldn't give myself that permission slip. There is someone out there right now doing what I want to do, making millions of dollars doing it. All I need to do is just get back into action doing it. Does it help me to sit here and worry about the outcome, be attached to it, and so much so that I'm just sitting back in fear? No, it doesn't help. What does is just doing the do and taking the next right step. And so I've found that to be incredibly true. And it's something that I'm always telling female entrepreneurs whenever they ask me, what have you figured out? I'm like, that there's someone out there doing it. And that means you can too. Yeah. It's just that simple.
Oh, I love that. So tell us a little bit more about where people can find your book and then find out more about you and your groups.
Yeah. So my book is available at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com. You can order it on there right now. And please do. I also have a corresponding workbook if you want to kind of work through all of the challenges that end up coming up that entrepreneurs have that coincides with the book that's on my website at SallieHolder.com. That's SallieHolder.com. And of course, then I have a free Facebook group that I always, I love giving out free content. It's called the Momentum Makers. And so I always encourage people to join that. It's a great way to be able to get some additional experience and exposure to me, and then figure out if working together is a good idea. But, and then, finally, like I said, I've got the Brim, which is that amazing movement of women who are, taking the next step in their lives and careers and excited about making them bigger and bolder and better.
I love that. And I can't wait to finish the book. It is phenomenal. It took so long to ship here because of everything that's going on, but I'm excited to get through it. And I'm going to check out that workbook for sure, because I know I was scribbling away. Sallie, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was such a pleasure. And I got so much out of it.
Oh, good. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it. You're just such a pleasure to talk to.
I remember the first time I decided to leave the corporate world and become an entrepreneur. And I just had this feeling that I couldn't continue to do this, but I never had a name to it. And when I came across Sallie's book, Rock Middle, I was finally able to put a term to it. And there are so many great tips in that book. So even if you don't feel like you're in rock middle right now, I do suggest you pick up the book, because it has so many great tips to help you even recognize when you're heading towards the rock middle again and be able to prevent that from happening. I want to know what your biggest takeaway was from this episode. So head over to any of our social media sites, whether that's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or LinkedIn, and let me know what it was that really stuck with you for this episode. I love hearing what it is that you guys attach onto. And I really feel like it helps others to go, oh, I never really thought of it that way. You can also head over to our website at foxtalksbusiness.ca. Click on blogs at the top. You'll be able to see this episode and all of the ways that you can connect with Sallie so that you can stay out of your rock middle. So whether you're at rock bottom, rock middle, or the top of your game, take some time to try to find a way to have fun. Because as I always say, if you're not having fun, why are you doing it?